him. He wants to show us the best way to go. He wants to show us his will. He wants to show us what's true and what's right. And so we have to yield to him and rely on him when we make decisions. He was the 3rd overall pick for the Charlotte Bobcats. I grew the stash. I went all in, and he was a total letdown. It was devastating. Absolutely devastating.
That is an unbelievable reality that a perfect God would die for me and save me.
And if you know anything about me, I don't like the field goal kickers. Now, I like them as individuals. Some of them have been on the show over the years. Some of them I've met in person, and I love them. They're great people. However, in those types of moments, I don't want to see the kicker.
Welcome to the Unpacking It Live podcast. I'm Bryce Johnson. For the next hour, we will unpack sports, faith, and life with the Unpacking It community of sports fans. Thanks so much for being with us on this Monday before the NFL draft. We have got a lot to get to. This won't be the show that breaks down the mock drafts, but we're going to have some fun conversations. There are draft experts out there, and then there are guys like me that just love the stories. I love the history of the draft. I love how it affects fantasy football. I'll be watching Thursday for sure, and then keeping an eye on it throughout the weekend. But there are some underlying storylines that we will get into today. And for Unpack This, which is something we do every week, where we take up a sports topic related to the Bible, related to our own lives, we will unpack draft mistakes and how that parallels to our own lives and how we handle our own failures, our own mistakes, and kind of draft history, where teams like Jacksonville and Chicago and Detroit and the Jets have a pattern or a history of mistakes. And many of us may wrestle with that as well, and some of the ramifications of that, some of the mindsets behind that. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Be sure you subscribe to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Unpacking It, and really appreciate your support there. If you'll share the show with your friends, we greatly appreciate that as well. This show is for you. We're doing it with you. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this week's draft? What about your favorite team? Who do you hope your favorite team drafts this week? And what players do you buy into? Of all the guys coming out, of all the draftees, of all the prospects, who's your guy that you think, man, that guy's going to have an awesome NFL career? Let us know. You can leave your comments on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, wherever you are listening. And you can always email me, Bryce@unpackingit.com. We will also do what we're convinced of in just a moment. And if you want to let us know what you're convinced of, you can do that as well. Just leave your comments wherever you're listening in the chat. Before we do that, let me ask you this. Do you need to get your own health insurance? Well, go to healthmarketgenius.com. Know your options, healthmarketgenius.com. Support them as they support us. Today on the show, we are joined by Luke Eaton. He's in Texas. Henry Bienamine, he is in Connecticut. We all come together to put this show on. We'll hear from Henry in a little bit during our segment Tap Drill, where we tap around some of the funny, goofy, random topics from the sports week, and we'll do that with him. But let's say good morning to Luke. Luke, how was the weekend? How are you, man?
The weekend was great. It is, I have a unbelievable story to share from the weekend. A very unique experience. So Madeline and I were a part of a wedding, and we met the groom and the bride the day before the wedding. So
what?
Yes. So I was
wedding crashers.
I was a groomsman. Madeline was a bridesmaid, and we met them the day before they got married. So fascinating story. So Donovan and Alexis are the couple. I nicknamed him the Don. I was trying to be his number one hype man, so I just kept calling him the Don all night. But so they had just moved here from Ohio, and they don't know anyone, and they're getting married. They got married yesterday. So what they wanted to do was, let's just ask a bunch of strangers, because they're kind of eloping, kind of not. And they were thinking, let's just ask a bunch of strangers to be our wedding party, to be our groomsmen, our bridesmaids. So they had a few neighbors, a few coworkers, and then Madeline and I are really good friends with a couple that lives down the street. The wife is a wedding photographer and videographer. So she told us, hey, this couple I'm shooting a wedding for, they need another groomsman and bridesmaid. Would you guys want to be a part of that? And we, with no seconds of hesitation, thought 100%. When are we ever going to get this opportunity? So we all wore grayish color suits, showed up to a chapel. There's a minister there, and we were part of the wedding. And it was an incredibly unique, fun, just outrageous, amazing experience of because we all show up to the rehearsal the day before, and we're all like going in a circle introducing ourselves like in a college class before, like in syllabus week. We're all saying our name, where we're from, and I'm like, this is insane, this is amazing. So incredible experience this weekend.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, could you feel confident standing up there saying, yeah, this couple should be together? I mean, come on, you don't even know them. You're putting your credibility on the line as a groomsman.
That's right. Yeah. So I wasn't best man. I wasn't standing in the best man position. I was second to the left. So
now are you buddies? Are you going to be hanging out? Are you going to be at their anniversary party or what? I mean, what is the story moving forward?
So it's certainly very unknown. So they're going to be living about an hour away. So I'm good buddies with the photographer's husband. So we hang out all the time, and we're thinking I was like, I kind of want to maintain this relationship just because it's cool, but certainly there's no requirement that we need to be best friends, but it'd be cool to keep in touch sometime. He found out that I'm a golfer, so he wants me to teach him how to play golf. So he's trying to he wants to get the whole wedding party together for a weekend. And,
the post-wedding bachelor party.
That's right. So Madeline and I definitely are dipping our toes in the water on what we want the relationship to be going forward, but happy for the Don and Alexis to be a part of their special day. It was very fun, very interesting. Because we're walking down, and I'm standing up there, and there's no one there. Her parents were there, and then no one. And we're standing up there, and of course the minister is cracking jokes like, "Thank you all for coming," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, got to say that joke," and drop that one in there, but. Yeah, it's very unknown going forward.
Never heard of such a thing. I mean, I guess crazy situations in Las Vegas or whatever, but for you to get roped in on that is fascinating. So good for you. You were willing to do it. You came in through the clutch.
I know. And apparently I might be a TikTok star. So apparently it blew up on TikTok. One of the bridesmaids posted about it. But yeah, it was because it was like they're kind of eloping, but we had a rehearsal and a wedding party, so it's not like just showing up to the courthouse in Vegas or something, but it was a legit wedding they planned, and I was a part of it.
What did you get him for a gift?
My time. I got him my time.
Oh,
but Madeline got a gift as a bridesmaid.
No gift.
One of the groomsmen, his coworkers came up and just handed him $300 cash. Said, "Hey man, here you go."
Oh my gosh! Now, did you get a groomsman gift? Did you get like a little knife with your name on it?
No pocket knife, no. But Madeline got a bridesmaid necklace and bracelet and little gift bag. So very nice there.
Wow. Well, there you go. That way to go, man. Congrats on your new friend Don and his wedding and marriage. So there you go. Yeah. Henry, how are you doing, man? How was vacation?
Vacation was good, man. How am I going to follow Luke and the Don?
You can't.
All I did was just go to Atlantic City and eat a lot.
There you go. That's
a win right there, though.
Yeah, we went to Gordon Ramsay's Pub and Grill at Caesars. We also went to Guy Fieri's Chop Shop over in Bally's.
Wow, impressive.
Ooh, you ate well.
You sure did.
Oh, yeah.
Good for you. Well, as far as my weekend goes, I got to share this with everyone. So on one end, I want a little credit, and then on the other end, I want to let you into the craziness that I experience at times. So last week, a toilet is an important necessity in life, right? And the funny thing about toilets is over all these years, there little changes have been made to the toilet. And so what often happens is eventually it starts to run, it starts to leak, it starts to have trouble flushing, right? And so you can either hire a plumber or you could try to fix the toilet yourself.
That's right. You could be the five tool husband, utility husband. Does it all.
You better believe it. And Jody's love language is acts of service. And so, this past week, the toilet would flush and then it would not stop filling up. And so what I would have to do is I would have to take the top off and then top of the toilet off and then flip the little lever up that's part of the fill valve, and it would shut off. So we were good. But every time you flush, you would have to do that. And I was like, all right, over the weekend, I'll finally fix it. So I watched a couple YouTube videos, and the first couple of ones were like, no, this isn't the issue. I know I don't know what the issue is, but I know it's something to do with the fill up pump, the fill valve, whatever you call it. And so there I am. I finally find the right video. And as I watched the video, there was a warning kind of, hey, make sure you do this. And I heard it and I go, yeah, that's all right. I'll figure it out. My mentality in life oftentimes is I just jump and then I kind of figure out what to do next. And so here I am. I dive into fixing the toilet. And before I start, I wasn't able to turn off the water. And normally before you mess with the toilet, you're supposed to turn off the water. But I couldn't do it. For some reason, it wasn't working. Left, right, wasn't working. So I was like, all right, that's okay. So part of the issue that I learned by watching the video was that there was most likely a little bit of sediment in the water, and it was affecting the pump's ability to shut off. So it didn't know when to shut off because there was a little bit of sediment in there. Not that I could see, but part of it was what I needed to do was allow the water to come out and flush it out. So what I did, I popped off the top of the pump valve. And then the water started shooting up. There was water everywhere. The bathroom was filling with water. I'm getting drenched. It's shooting up.
Oh, no.
The sediment is coming out. The water is coming out. Now, let me tell you this. Maddie is in the other room taking a nap. Now, we get about 1 hour on a Saturday for, that's the most, time that I get by myself. And so I'm spending it fixing the toilet, but I have to be quiet. And so all of a sudden I go, sweetie, I'm trying to get Jody into the bathroom to try to help me figure out what's going on. The top of the thing is off. Water is flying all over the walls. And so Jody's main concern is the fact that the walls are getting wet. And I'm concerned that I'm getting wet, I can't shut off the water. So the water is coming. I can't turn it off on the main, near the wall. That's not left. And she's saying, well, turn it left. Left doesn't work. Turn it right. Right doesn't work. Oh, no. And then she starts saying, well, why don't you just flush the toilet? And I'm thinking, I'm not going to flush the toilet. Why would I flush the toilet? There's water coming out. That's only going to make the water flow even more. So eventually, I have no other option. The water's just flowing out.
Got to go for the flush.
It's flowing. So I finally flush it, and it works.
Wow.
So of course it does.
So it stopped the water. And then I was able to pop the top back on because the problem was the water was coming out so fast that I couldn't re-switch it back in. So I had to switch it off and then switch it back in. Anyway, it's complicated, but we were able to get it done. I got a little wet, but I fixed the toilet. It's now flushing properly. It is filling properly, and we are good to go. The water on the walls did dry. Sat there. And listen to the wife. Listen to
the wife. I have a question though. What is the post getting soaked by toilet water routine? Because certainly no one has an affinity for toilet water, except if you're a dog. But
that's right.
So how are you responding there? Is it an all-out sprint, 100-yard dash to the shower, or are you kind of just soaking in the moment on, I'm husband. I just fixed this toilet. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of sit in my glory here. Me being soaking wet is evidence of me being a five-star husband fixing the toilet.
Well, the problem is I did fix it. I fixed what the problem was. But since Jody got she got the assist, so I couldn't take the full credit for it, unfortunately. Yeah. But thankfully, no more in the middle of the night flushing the toilet by accident and then having to take the lid off in the middle of the night, which is always a disaster. So I did fix that issue, which was a good thing. But I ended up changing my clothes right away. So I did not shower. I was okay. And maybe I was a little dramatic with how wet I got. Maybe it was just a little splashing. I don't know. You weren't there. I don't know. So anyway, it was that was my adventure from the weekend. But let's jump into what we're convinced of today, and I will start. And I was able to watch my Charlotte Hornets yesterday on national TV, ESPN, Sunday afternoon, and the Charlotte Hornets dominated the Boston Celtics. And so I'm convinced Miles Bridges is a rising star in the NBA. His ability to dunk. He hit a three-pointer that was deep at the end of the third quarter. He's scoring 20 points every night. He's getting to the rim. He's grabbing rebounds. He is filling in for an injured Gordon Hayward and has been lighting it up. And so I'm thrilled with the development of his game. But the Charlotte Hornets won yesterday without Gordon Hayward, without LaMelo Ball, and they are playing so well despite the injuries that they faced this year. And I'm convinced James Borrego should be this year's Coach of the Year. Give him the NBA Coach of the Year. I know Tom Thibodeau, which we'll talk about the Knicks in a little bit, he'll deserve some votes. But the development of these young pieces, the draft picks over the last few years, PJ Washington, Ball was great before getting injured, and Bridges, they've taken the next step. Devontae Graham. I mean, these guys are playing really well. And so good for my Hornets. I'm convinced they're going to make the playoffs, and I'm convinced they're going to be a really tough out in that first round. So there you go. I'm also convinced of this, keeping with my favorite teams. I'm convinced the Carolina Panthers do something big on Thursday night. They're going to make a big trade. They're going to make a big move. They're either going to trade down. They're going to trade up. They're going to draft a quarterback that slips, which then will lead to other dominoes that will fall. And so it's going to be a wild Thursday night for Panthers fans. I've got my Panthers blue on today. I'm getting lunch with a former Panther, former first-round pick. So I'm going to ask him about his draft experiences over the years, but or when he got drafted. But anyway, it's I'm excited for Thursday. I'm excited for the Panthers. It's going to be a great NFL draft, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Luke, what are you convinced of today?
Yeah, so we got the NFL draft this week, and it reminds me of a take that I've had for a while. And it is that I'm convinced, on average, watching football is way better on your couch than being in person at the game. So if it's not
football season.
Well, but as the draft is reminding me of this take from football season that I carry with me, very proud. Now, if you're listening and you are just infuriated by that take because you are a guy that goes to every football game, hey, no problem. I'm a homebody. I love to sit on my couch with a drink, with food, relaxed, kick the feet up. I'm a big recliner guy. Love the recliner.
I've got a recliner.
Yeah,
my grandpa's recliner.
That's right. I walk in, I pop a seat right in the recliner. Because at a football game, especially if we're like going to Cowboys games or the big stadiums, I'm not forking over hundreds and hundreds of dollars usually to get a good seat. Like I'll probably, if I'm going to a game, I'm probably going to sit higher up. And you can't even see what's going on. I don't want to be binocular guy, and I don't want to be just kind of sitting there socially. Like I want at home on TV, I'm able to see replay. I'm able to see close. I can rewind. I can be on Twitter seeing what's going on with the action, and it's such a good experience for like being at home watching football games versus in the actual stadium. I'm just convinced it's a way better overall viewing experience. Whereas basketball or hockey, you can be a lot closer. Hockey, huge rink, you can be close to the action. That's fun. Basketball, you can be closer, and that can be more fun. But for football games with ginormous 100,000 people stadiums, yeah, I'd rather just sit at home and just enjoy that experience.
Well, you bring up a good point, because now that people that got into that rhythm of going to games, will they be even more eager now that it was taken away to get back in? Or will some of those people that were so set on going every week to games, having experienced this last season at home and the benefits of it, will they go back? So what will fan attendance look like moving forward? It's going to be a fascinating thing to see. I know for me, I'm right there with you. I've got 3 TVs. So I go Red Zone, CBS, Fox. I love NFL Sundays. So I'm right there with you. I've got a recliner and I'm loving life. So I enjoy going to a Thursday night or a Monday night football game when the Panthers have a national game. Those are fun. But yeah, Sunday, there's too much going on. And I think that speaks to why there's such an interest in the NFL draft as well, because I care about what the Panthers are going to do, but I care about the league, because I watch the whole NFL league. Yep. I watch every team play.
Yep.
From the red zone through to national games. I keep up with all the teams through fantasy football. And so all of these decisions that will take place on Thursday night affect me in some way, affect the teams that the Panthers will play, affect who I draft in fantasy, and all that sort of thing. So, but by being home, I'm able to watch more. If I only go to one game, that's the difference.
I agree. So to your point, so for in college, of course, going to A&M games, incredible atmosphere, environment. But as a freshman, when I'm pulling tickets, I mean, I am in the stratosphere. I'm not even close to the gridiron. So it's like, first of all, I'm very fair-skinned. So you're asking me to go sit up 3,000 feet above sea level and to just roast up there. And I can't even see the name on the back of a player's jersey. So... and then when I'm a senior, I can get good tickets. But most of the time, I'd rather sit at home. Your point about the draft, we talked about this 2 years ago. And you said, and I agree 100%, the NBA is a transactional league. So the NBA it's so fun to watch the trades, free agents, because that happens a lot. The NFL, way fewer transactions throughout the season. We get that at the draft. That's why I think the NFL draft has so much excitement, because that's where big moves happen. Because you don't get the trade deadline in the NBA is always chaotic, but you don't really get that in the NFL. So the NFL draft is fans get to come out, and the transactions are so exciting as a fan, because you love seeing player movement, you love seeing teams change, and you really don't get that as much throughout the season like you get in the NBA.
Yeah, no, I think there will be we've already seen some, with the 49ers making a move, and even just setting the Chiefs getting rid of, or the Ravens getting rid of an offensive lineman, Chiefs getting rid of a first-round draft pick, and multiple picks actually last week. So, yeah, we're already seeing the action happen, and I think day of, it'll definitely happen. So, like I said, I think the Panthers will make a big move on Thursday one way or another. All right, so keep your I'm convinced comments coming in. Let us know what you're convinced of today. Leave your comments on Facebook and Twitter. Would love to hear what you're convinced of. But right now, we got to jump into Unpack This, a thought about sports, faith, and life. We send out a devotional Monday, Wednesday, Friday that you can subscribe to for free. It's the written version of Unpack This, but today on the podcast, you get to hear us discuss a topic. And then also on Wednesdays, we do something called the Unpacked Lunch. That we'd love for you to be a part of. Sports fans around the country, we gather together basically over, it's not Zoom, we use Google, but Google Meet, and we unpack sports, faith, and life for an hour during lunch. And so we'll unpack one of the Unpack This topics every Wednesday as well. So I encourage you to join us on that. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can email me, Bryce@unpackingit.com. All right, so today what I want to unpack is the mistakes that have taken place in the draft over the years. And the truth is, heading into Thursday, everybody's very hopeful and optimistic about their favorite team. If you're a GM, you're optimistic that this is going to be a great draft for your team. If you're a player hoping to get drafted, you're optimistic that you're going to be drafted high and you're going to end up at a great team and you're going to have a successful career. But as we look back at the history of the NFL draft, we know that every year, guys go to teams, it's bad situations. It ends up not working out. The quarterback's not the right fit. He's not ready. He's not prepared. He doesn't fit in with the coaching style. And so they clash, and maybe the player just wasn't as talented as anticipated. And so what ends up happening, we look back and we go, how did that GM make that mistake? And man, why can the Detroit Lions not figure it out? Why can Jacksonville never seem to draft a quarterback? And so what ends up happening is, heading into this draft, despite the hope and optimism, there's also the negative mindset that pops in. So if you're Jacksonville, you're thinking, all right, in the past, we've drafted Blaine Gabbert and Blake Bortles. Those guys did not work out. So why would it work out with Trevor Lawrence? We're 0 for 2. So this one's going to be another mistake, right? And if you're the Chicago Bears and you're thinking Ryan Pace traded up to get Mitchell Trubisky, which was not a good decision, what kind of decision is he going to make on Thursday? And if you're kind of the Detroit Lions, so they drafted Kenny Golladay, but remember their history of drafting wide receivers, and now Galladay's even gone. So they need to draft another receiver. Well, can you trust them to draft a wide receiver? And what about the New York Jets? Think about all the mistakes they've made over and over. Here's the deal. This Thursday, it's a new draft. The mistakes from the past can be lessons learned, and these teams and these GMs can look at what they've done in the past in ways that maybe they've processed decisions and make some changes so that this year's decisions end up being better decisions, better draft picks. And the fact that in recent years, the Alabama quarterbacks haven't been very good, that doesn't mean that Mac Jones can't be a great quarterback. Just because Ohio State quarterbacks have kind of fizzled out in recent years doesn't mean that Fields can't be a great quarterback in the NFL. He's his own guy. It's this year. It's something fresh. And so how does this translate to our own lives? Many of us have, a history of mistakes, right? We've made mistakes throughout our life. Some of us have family history of mistakes. And so we can make the choice moving forward to continue down that same pattern of mistakes and tell ourselves the negative thinking, well, just because I drafted a bad quarterback in the past, I'm going to draft a bad quarterback now, right? Or just because I screwed up, years ago, I'm going to do that again. Or just because my parents were alcoholics, then I'm going to be an alcoholic. Just because my parents got divorced, I'm going to get divorced. Just because this failure happened in the past, this failure is going to happen again. And the good news for us today, just like Thursday is its own draft, it's a new day. It's for many teams, it's a new regime. It's a new GM in place, and there's new coaches in place. When we give our lives to Jesus, when we surrender our lives to Jesus and we begin to follow him, we now have a fresh start. The pattern of sin that we once were on, Jesus gives us the strength and the ability to head in the right direction now, that we don't have to continue to repeat the same history of mistakes. And just because we have a family history, just because of something we did 5 years ago, doesn't mean we have to do it again. As long as we're trusting him, as long as we're relying on him, as long as we're taking the necessary steps toward him and with him and resting in his grace and forgiveness. And oftentimes, GMs live with the shame and the embarrassment of bad draft picks that failed in years past. And we can do that too. We can carry our shame and we can carry and think, man, I'm such a failure. I'm such a loser. I can't believe I did that. But Jesus says, no, I have given you grace. I have given you forgiveness. I love you. I want to spend eternity with you. And I want to help you along this path toward making better decisions, living a life according to my will and according to the abundant life found in me. And so that's what Jesus is inviting us into. And so as we reflect on the failures in our own lives or the failures in the NFL, there is great hope. There is great hope in Jesus, who offers us grace, who offers us forgiveness, and offers us that fresh start. And so today's a new day. Today's a fresh start. So let's embrace that. Let's embrace all that Jesus has for us today. And let's go to these verses in 2 Peter. He writes, and because of Jesus' glory and excellence, he has given us great and precious promises. These are the promises that enable you to share his divine nature and escape the world's corruption caused by human desires. In view of all this, make every effort to respond to God's promises. Supplement your faith with a generous provision of moral excellence, and moral excellence with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with patient endurance, and patient endurance with godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love for everyone. The more you grow like this, the more productive and useful you will be in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. But those who fail to develop in this way are short-sighted or blind, forgetting that they have been cleansed from their old sins. Let me read that again. But those who fail to develop in this way are short-sighted or blind, forgetting that they have been cleansed from their old sins. So we can move past the old sins in our life. Sure, there's some consequences that may carry on, but we have hope and forgiveness and grace that we don't have to repeat those. We don't have to repeat those same sins from the past. And we don't have to live in that shame any longer. We live in the freedom and the grace that Jesus provides. So you can unpack that today, live with confidence in Jesus, surrender to him, and rest in that grace that he offers us. Luke, what can you add for us today? How can you unpack that for us?
Man, come on. That's a good word. That is a good word. Oh, I'm so fired up. I so encouraged hearing you just talk about that. One, I just love that scripture you read. And two, it's just, we can never be reminded of that enough, because like looking at myself, it's so easy to get caught up in how we're viewed by the world's eyes and forget the grace, the overwhelming grace we've been given. Like Romans 8, there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. There is nothing that can take me away from the Father through Christ. It doesn't matter what I've done. It doesn't matter how the world sees me. I know that God sees me and he sees Christ, because my faith in Christ gives me that relationship with God. There is no condemnation because I am safely secure in Christ Jesus. Romans 6:14, I'm not under the law, but under grace. Like this whole idea of I'm under grace. But it's hard because the world, it's so easy to like, oh, but you did that. Oh, but I saw you do that 10 years ago. Oh, but you used to live like this. Like, what are you saying? It's so easy to get caught up in like, we could either be in shame and, oh my gosh, I did do that. Oh man, like, you're right. Like, how could God possibly love me? Or man, maybe I'm not good enough for God, because, and just to hear that judgment and people pointing out the things we've done, but there is no condemnation. There's no shame. There's no guilt. And of course, I say that with sympathy because it's hard. And even for myself, it's like overcoming guilt and shame for past mistakes and sins is hard. Like I'm still working through that for past sins. Like there's still days where I feel incredibly shameful and guilty. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I did that. Like, man, I was just so dumb. So whatever it is. And there's some days I don't believe it in my heart. I just have to tell myself, all right, I'm not feeling it. Maybe I'm not believing it, but I know there's no condemnation for me in Christ Jesus. And yeah, there's a new day. Like of course, sin has consequences, but we're not bound to live in ways we always did. Like we're not bound by those. God's grace transforms us, renews our mind, like Romans 12. Like he transforms us to make him more like the Son until we reach heaven. And it's very encouraging message because there's always hope. If you're in Christ, there is hope. So yeah.
That's right. And yeah, today can be different. And just, even if we screwed up over the weekend, today is a new day and a fresh start for us in Christ. And just like Thursday, the next draft pick for Jacksonville can be the one. Trevor Lawrence can be the one Jacksonville quarterback that they take in the top 10 that does work out. Like that's possible. It doesn't have to be another Blaine Gabbert and Blake Bortles situation. And so that same with the Jets, same with the Bears, same with the Lions, teams that, over the years have made mistakes consistently. This year can be different. It does not have to be the same. And they can learn from the mistakes of the past regime, just like we learned from family mistakes that were made and kind of the history that we've maybe come from or seen. But we can learn from that and move forward with hope and confidence and grace. So that's the message for us today. That devotional will go out through email a little bit later, so you can sign up and subscribe on unpackingit.com. All right, Luke, let's talk a little more NFL draft. And here's my kind of big thought going in to this Thursday's draft. What are the domino effects? How will the decisions made on Thursday affect the current players on rosters? So again, I look at it through a lens of fantasy football and wondering, okay, if San Francisco truly does draft a quarterback, what does that mean for Jimmy Garoppolo? What does that end up meaning for the New England Patriots, right? And if they end up getting Jimmy G, like that's still floating out there. The Buffalo Bills, they had such inconsistency at the running back position. How early will they draft a running back? And what does that mean for their current running backs? Do they move on from those guys? What if the Panthers actually drafted a quarterback? If Fields slips to the Panthers and they draft him, what does that mean for Sam Darnold? What does that mean for Teddy Bridgewater? The Broncos, I think there's a lot of domino effects based on what happens before they pick and how that affects Drew Lock and how that affects kind of their plan going forward. The Bears, can the Bears find a way to get a quarterback? And what does that do to Andy Dalton and Nick Foles? Do they maybe give the Bears another weapon? And maybe Andy Dalton actually plays better in Chicago with a consistent running game with David Montgomery and then maybe an added weapon. Atlanta, if Atlanta drafts a quarterback, what does that mean for Matt Ryan? Does he ride it out this year? Or would there be a scenario where they trade Matt Ryan this year? If you trade Matt Ryan, why would you keep Julio Jones? Or do you give the young quarterback a weapon in Julio Jones and, of course, Calvin Ridley? So many dominoes could fall down based on these decisions, even just within the top 10. So I'm fascinated by that. And then also, as we look back and kind of a question for our listeners today, what are some of your favorite draft moments in history? Some of the craziest moments, some of the craziest surprising draft picks. What do you remember? Even from recent years, what jumps out to you? What are some of those favorite moments? And so for you, Luke, what are your thoughts heading into Thursday? And as you look back, what are some of your favorite moments from over the years?
Yeah, the NFL draft, like I was saying earlier, is so exciting because as fans, we love when moving pieces. Certainly, there was a run, maybe around a decade ago, where the Cowboys got really hot drafting linemen and built an incredible offensive line. Certainly, one of the drafting woes for Dallas that I wish I did not have to remember was spending a first-round pick on Ezekiel Elliott when Jalen Ramsey was there. Zeke is evidence. I think I'm on board with not drafting a running back in the first round, but I digress.
Oh, yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Panthers did it with McCaffrey, but still, it's like, where are all the playoff wins, right?
Yeah, I know.
I think that's what it comes down to.
There is some crazy I was reading an article this morning of just crazy things that went on in the draft. I think a long time ago, I forget which team, but it was near the end of the draft, and there was no talent left, basically. So they drafted John Wayne, the actor. They drafted John Wayne from Apache State or something. That's what they said. I just think that's hilarious. I'm sure it got some backlash, but and then I think what's fascinating is you look back at when Eli Manning refusing to go to San Diego, but then San Diego already having Drew Brees and then bringing in Phillip Rivers. I'm sure that was interesting. And then Bo Jackson refusing to go to Tampa and saying, you know what, I think I'm going to go play baseball, because he was mad at the Buccaneers for taking him on a trip, and he lost his last season of baseball in college at Auburn. So he's like, yeah, I'm not going to go play for Tampa. And then Oakland drafted him in the 7th round the next year. 7th round for Bo Jackson. Can you believe that? So looking back,
awesome.
there's fascinating draft stories, but I'll toss the question back to you. But you have more years under your belt of NFL draft stuff, and I know you and your uncles are just NFL draft junkies. So I'm sure you got an endless encyclopedia of memories.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a quarterback guy, I'm a fantasy guy, and so I'm always keeping an eye on the quarterbacks. And I think over the years, there have been so many guys where you just go, wait, why are you drafting that quarterback? Like, why do you think he's gonna be the one? And I'll say sometimes I'm wrong because Josh Allen with Buffalo would be one of those guys. Like,
yeah.
And I think Blaine Gabbert was probably that guy. So maybe I got that one right. But it's always, and Blake Bortles. Like I wasn't in on those guys either.
Were you in on Jake Locker over Blaine Gabbert? Because I was reading about that this morning. The same draft, Blaine Gabbert was potentially going to be the better quarterback than Cam Newton, is what some guys are saying. And then Tennessee spent a high draft pick on Locker.
Yeah, I don't think I was, because remember, he went back to Washington and didn't have as good of a year because he had a lot more hype the year before. And that to me is very concerning when a guy goes back to school and doesn't play very well. The one big memory for me with the draft is I really wanted the Carolina Panthers to draft Andrew Luck. And so Panthers had the number one pick in, what was that, 2011, 2012? Yeah, 2011. Is that right? 2011. Whenever they drafted Cam Newton. But I wanted Luck. And then he decided to go back to Stanford. Mm-hmm. And I loved Cam Newton at Auburn. But I still thought Luck was like the can't miss guy. And so I was really bummed when he announced that he was returning. But then I got excited about Cam, and it ended up working out great for the Panthers. Went to a Super Bowl. And so that was a special time for the Panthers. But as far as a couple other kind of, I guess, what do you value as a fan watching the draft? So if you're listening today, what do you value? Like, what philosophy do you buy in when you're thinking for your team? So when you're encouraging your team to make a draft pick, what do you think? And so one of the things for me, I actually love when a team drafts offensive linemen.
Yeah.
I think offensive linemen early, like in the top 10 pick, those guys are trustworthy. Those guys pan out. And I don't think you have to reach for linemen. I think you let linemen fall to you and you're good to go. You take a guy from Iowa, you're good to go. Like you take some of the the guys that just the size, the blue blood schools that produce offensive linemen, you can feel pretty good about that. One other thing that I have noticed in recent years is teams drafting quarterbacks that do not deserve to be drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
And I think this is a huge mistake being made consistently, because we've seen over the years, great quarterbacks can be found late in the draft. And the reason that they thrive later in the draft is because, one, teams spend those draft picks earlier getting offensive linemen, getting players that are actually worthy of a first round pick or a second round pick. And then you get a guy that maybe doesn't have the size, like Russell Wilson, and he slips a little bit. You go, well, maybe we'll see how that size translates. But you recognize the intangibles, and you recognize the leadership ability and still what he accomplished at NC State and Wisconsin. And you go, yeah, he's worth a third rounder. And then you build around him. You don't have to pay him as much. He doesn't make the first round money. And what happens is now lately, teams are trading in to take top 10 quarterbacks that aren't worthy. Like Trey Lance could end up being the best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah,
it could happen. But to me, I'm not spending a top 10 pick on him because we haven't seen enough from him. He's from a smaller school, and I love small schools. Go App State. Used to be an FCS level school. But those guys, they may need a little bit of time. And they didn't even play a full season last year. I'm not taking him in the top 10, but he's probably going to go in the top 10. And I think it's a disservice to him. It's a disservice to the team when teams force, we got to take a quarterback in the first round, in the top 10 picks, because he's not going to be available later. Well, ask Baltimore. They let Lamar Jackson slip to them. And again, they didn't have to pay him as much as a top 10 quarterback. Mm-hmm. And they're a solid team. They were a quality team ready to win. Yeah. And that's the kind of guy that you can plug in. And now all of a sudden you're a playoff team. Now they got to win some playoff games. That's another story. So anyway, I'm kind of all over the place, but
the win now mentality, has fully infiltrated the minds of front office guys and franchises. Win now, I'm going to have to burn an early pick on a quarterback, which
to me, that's a lie.
It's a 50%. Yeah, it's a 50% chance they fail. My thing is, I struggle to navigate drafting need versus best player available.
Great point.
So that's really hard for me. I tend to gravitate towards, as a Cowboys fan, can we please just fill need? So last year, CeeDee Lamb slips to Dallas, which CeeDee Lamb, certainly the best player available at the time. But man, and he's been good. Like, he's been very good. It's ended up being a good draft pick. But at the moment, I'm thinking, guys, every year we talk about we need defensive backs. Every year it's, but the Cowboys defense. Yeah, Dak's good. Oh, but the Cowboys defense. I'm like, can we just fill the need? And this year, everyone, all the local radio guys are saying we have to draft cornerback. We have to draft defensive backs. But then the conversation is, but if Kyle Pitts slips to 10, do you take him? It's so hard because a lot of guys are thinking Kyle Pitts is a juggernaut. He's a generational type talent. But man, the Cowboys have such greater needs than tight end. So I struggle to navigate that because I'm in desperation for obvious. They're not just like, we could use a corner. It is a obvious need to patch up the defensive backs in the Dallas Cowboys. But I have no confidence that they're going to actually do it if a player falls that's higher on the draft board, but not at a must-change position.
No, it's a great debate, and I think as fans, we sometimes some years we want our team to fill needs, and other years we do like the best player available. The Athletic put together an article with a bunch of research and formulas that took the draft since 1966 and figured out how many times teams took the best player available. Now, this was kind of based on how their careers ended up, I believe. But what's interesting is the Steelers, Colts, Patriots, Cowboys, and Ravens had the most best players available. Isn't that interesting? Now, those are top franchises. Those are the franchises that and Steelers, of course, when you say, hey, what's the best franchise in the NFL? I think for the longest time, it has been the Steelers, and they have the best players available. That's who they take. And they find those steals later in the draft, and they've done a great job consistently in doing that. And I think that says a lot about them. So anyway, that's interesting you brought that up because I did see a little bit of that research. And I probably lean toward taking the best player available. And it goes back to my point. Don't force taking a position in, just because you need a quarterback. If a quarterback is not worthy of the third pick,
very fair.
Do not take him with the third pick.
I agree.
And maybe you have to wait another year to draft that quarterback. And that might be the case. But 100%. To me, there are guys that you can find later in the draft. Your boy, Tony Romo. My boy, Jake Delhomme. Got the Jake Delhomme mentioned.
Jake Delhomme counter. That's right.
The streak continues. You don't have to find those guys. They can be undrafted free agents. They can be Kurt Warner. Those guys are out there. Now, it's almost like it's a roll of the dice either way. Now, when you have the first pick and you draft guys like John Elway and Peyton Manning and the clear-cut guys, that's nice. But I'm not sure that Trevor Lawrence is as clear-cut as some people believe. And part of my thinking on that is we put a lot of emphasis on the winning that takes place in college, but the reality is it doesn't always translate. I brought this up last week, but a lot of the winning quarterbacks from Oklahoma and Clemson and Ohio State and these consistent winners over the years, they don't always translate. Now, again, back to my point earlier, just because you failed in the past doesn't mean that you have to fail this time around.
Very fair.
But I think you look at some of the you can factor in the history to predict what could happen. And I'm not so sure just because Trevor Lawrence won a ton of games that means, oh yeah, well, he's going to be a winner in the NFL. Now he's got a lot of the skill sets and the measurables and the immeasurables for that matter that could help him translate. But I think oftentimes, we overlooked a guy like Justin Herbert. Last year, he was the most impressive quarterback.
Oh my gosh,
and we let
not
him
even close. Yeah,
he was overlooked because he wasn't winning as many games.
Yeah, you got to look at the context
in the national consciousness from national media and fans, right? So those
I agree.
Guys are available.
It's the context because. Yes. Say someone's a clear winner in college. Okay, but what's feeding into that? Is it system? Is it talent around?
System.
Is it the level of teams you're playing? And also, how are they winning? As an NFL franchise, are you going to change your offense to suit the offense of the collegiate player? Or are you going to draft a guy that has experience running your style of offense? Context matters a lot. So I'll go back to your point. I agree with you regarding how you're looking at the best player. Because this year, for example, I was listening to the radio. There's, I think, 2 tight ends rated as top 100 players. This year's certainly not a draft to reach for a tight end. If tight end's a need, don't reach for one. You can find one in another year, or just go sign a veteran that can come in and fill the gap before you draft one in a later draft, potentially. But if for the Cowboys, like Henry was saying, Patrick Surtain from Alabama is mocked to Dallas. But if Kyle Pitts fell to 10, Kyle Pitts is rated ahead of Surtain. But man, I'm going to go DB every time there, even though Kyle Pitts is rated ahead.
You're buying into Schultz? Tight end?
It's going to be.
I don't need your breakdown. I don't need your breakdown of what's his name? Dalton Schultz. Schultz. David Schultz.
Good enough. Dalton Schultz. Yeah, good enough. It's going to be production by association. It's going to be a group effort for Cowboys tight ends.
Your Cowboys do not need a tight end that catches. They need a tight end that blocks. They got 3 weapons that are elite receivers potentially.
Oh, I know. 100%.
All 3 of them.
Yeah, got to patch up the D. Patch up the defense.
That's it. Yeah, so you got to go corner on that one. I'm with you. And so I keep going back and forth on the Panthers between offensive line and corner. The other day I said corner. Today I feel like offensive line. So to me, it's like best available at one of those 2 positions at the 8th spot. But if Justin Fields slips to 8, if I'm the Panthers, I take him. I would take Fields at 8. I think that would be a value pick with what he projects to do. And again, Ohio State quarterbacks are never good. He could be different. We can't just base it on that. But I think it works for and against when you think about what Ohio State quarterbacks have done in the past. On one end, you go, yeah, just because they win all the time and their quarterbacks are on national TV and playing in the college football playoff, we're aware of them. They put up big numbers, but they don't always have it. They don't always have it on the next level. But I think Fields, we have to look at just as Fields. And I think he's got a lot of talent. I think in today's NFL, he really does fit it. And fit to me better than Dwayne Haskins and what he showed at Ohio State. And so anyway, I would be fine with Fields at 8. All right. Anybody else listening today? What are your thoughts on your favorite team? What do you think about teams trading up to get quarterbacks, reaching for quarterbacks? Is it worth it? Let us know your comments, and we'll post some of those. If we like it, makes sense, we'll throw it up on the screen for those watching.
Earn your right for your comment to be posted. That's what we're saying. Earn your right.
That's right. For those of you listening to the podcast later, you got to go watch the video on YouTube or on Facebook, and you can see some of the other comments. All right, let's make sure that we jump in with Tap Drill. So each week we will wrap up the show with some of the fun topics surrounding the sports world. But there you go on the NFL draft. Next Monday, we will recap some of the trades, the big picks, the dominoes that will fall based on what teams will do. At this point, I never buy into the hype. Last week, I wrote about the smoke screens. The reality is there's so many lies and rumors being swirled around. Teams saying they're going to draft this guy or draft that guy. It's just not true. And then we get all excited as fans or we get upset as fans. But there will be so many surprises, and that's why we love the draft. That's what will be fun. We cling so tightly to these mock drafts that end up being so wrong. What is it? Like 4 picks end up being right every year from the mock drafts because one trade changes everything. Yeah. One team's going to jump into the top 10, I promise, and it's going to change everything. So I know some people have fun with the mock drafts like Luke does, but I'm kind of anti mock draft guy. I just like talking about the bigger picture stuff. So sorry, Luke. All right, let's do that. Go ahead, Luke.
Bryce is big picture guy.
I'm big picture guy. Big picture guy. Hey, all right. Let's do tap drill. And sorry to squelch the fun for mock draft guy, but this is Mel Kiper's 7.7. Look what we're gonna do. The 10th pick. I think there's gonna be a trade. I got middle on my lip trying to do that.
How is Mel Kiper? Mel Kiper has to be doing Just for Men brunette because doing 6, 7, 8 editions of a mock draft has to be so exhausting. Oh my gosh.
This is what he lives and breathes.
That's true.
This is his whole life. This is who he is.
It's just like he lives. But imagine living in a constant state of speculation. Your entire life is constant speculation. It just has to be exhausting. But hey, he gets paid the big bucks. People pay for speculation.
Agents and teams are feeding him lies, and they expect him to tell those lies. Like he's the communicator, he's the messenger of the lies. Mel Kiper, the messenger of lies.
I was reading an article. I think it was Willis McGahee blew out his knee last year at Miami, and his agent was on video faking phone calls, talking to teams to try to trick teams that like people were really interested in him. And I forget which team bought it, but spent a pretty early draft pick on him. It's
the shenanigans. The shenanigans. You know what that just reminds me of? I need to watch Draft Day this week. Do you like that movie? Kevin Costner, Jennifer Garner. Great movie. I love it. What? Luke, what do you mean you've never seen it? You go see that this week.
Okay.
I saw that movie in the theater. That's a great movie.
Okay. An OG.
I may have already told this story, but I'll tell it again. I've in my whole life, I've very rarely ever gone to like a daytime movie other than like the weekend or like a holiday or something. But for Draft Day, me and my buddy took a long lunch and went and saw Draft Day. And it was great in the middle of the day. It was like a 12 o'clock showing and it was awesome. So that's my one movie that I've ever done that with. Okay. So there you go. All right, let's say hello to Henry Bienamine, feeding us all the stats and information today. And now the host of Tap Drill, our new segment here on Unpacking It, week number 3. Henry, take it away.
All right, boys. One other thing before we get into Tap Drill, I also saw Draft Day, and I'm not gonna give the title away, but the last 5 to 10 minutes of the movie makes the whole movie.
I'm sold. I'm bought in.
Do it.
All right, boy.
Kevin Costner should be enough for you to go watch it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fair. Absolutely. All right, let's get into Tap Drill, and staying on the NFL draft. Commissioner Roger Goodell says that when he is in Cleveland, he is bringing back hugging, saying that hugging the draft picks. He says that he is fully vaccinated and he is open to once again hugging the draft picks when they get announced. So my question to you boys, are you guys huggers?
Bring it in for the real thing. This is a fascinating storyline heading into the draft because how many of the players will go, whoa, I'm no longer a hugger. We got the Rona floating around. I'm not taking any chances. I don't want the hug. So then does Goodell come in for the real thing? And then the player pulls back. Does he kind of do the dab? And then, we're going to see some very awkward situations with these draft picks because in years prior, everybody just, brought it in for the real thing. And that was it. But to answer your question, Henry, I am a hugger. I am normally a hugger. The Rona has made me pause a little bit here and there, but I am, hey, Let's both arms out. I can do the man hug. I can be cool. I can be hip, but I'm old school. I want a full embrace. Let's go. Luke?
I'll tell you what, all in for it. All in for it. And that, because if you talk to any of my buddies, I'm just big physical touch guy. That's the love language I give. That's the love language I receive. Always one for a grab on the shoulder, a hug, dap up. I mean, if I'm Goodell, I'm tossing everyone a hug. But I'm surprised Goodell is welcoming that. There was a clip of him and Don Terry Poe a long time ago of the incredibly uncomfortable video of them hugging and like almost touching noses. It was,
was that the one where he kind of picked him up off the ground?
Yeah, and it's like the noses are an inch apart. I'm like, you
cannot
can't get that
noses.
close to the nose. Yeah, can't touch noses. But I'm all for bringing back hugs.
One other concern with the hug is the ear touch. When you rub ears with a guy, that's my nightmare. That's my nightmare, because do you even address that you just touched ears, or do you just kind of move on from that? Because that's a disaster. Gingerly touching ears is not a great thing. I promise. So
here's the thing. As a viewer, I need them to have an all or nothing mentality. Like, if they're gonna hug, man, hug. Like, get a good hug, but gingerly kind of going in, maybe a soft side hug, maybe both are kind of a little weird to go in. That's going to be so cringe to watch. So I need an all or nothing.
You got to go all in, but you also have to know. So if you're Goodell, you're going left the whole night or you're going right the whole night. Because when you start doing the bob and you don't know what head, and then all of a sudden you both go straight on.
That's right.
Then you get the nose touches.
There has to be communication.
It's not worse.
That's right. There's nothing worse than not knowing how you're greeting someone. So are you going in for the hug? Because then you kind of go, you're not sure your arms are flaying, or do you go in for the handshake, but then it goes a knuckle touch back to handshake? It's brutal. There has to be a clear stream of communication on. You walk on stage, you give me the sign. You scratch your forehead, it means hug. You go shoulder, it means we're not touching. We need some communication for the sake of the viewer's sanity.
And almost maybe Trevor Lawrence, first pick of the draft, you set the tone. Whatever you do, everybody must follow. Oh, he's not even going to be there. So now we got yeah, never mind. Throw that theory out there. Come on, Trevor, you're being selfish. We need you to set the tone.
Maybe we need the App State baseball third base coach to throw some signs up to let us know when we're hugging or not. All right, second topic, staying in the NFL, ESPN will reportedly maintain the Monday Night Football booth with Steve Levy, Brian Griese, and Louis Riddick for the 21 season. What do you guys think of that?
So that's my response. So I love Steve Levy. Steve Levy is a Sports Center legend. When I grew up watching Sports Center, of course it was Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, Stuart Scott, Rich Eisen. Those were my guys. But Steve Levy was in that mix. He was a part of that.
Yeah.
And so I like Steve Levy. I think he does a great job as the play-by-play guy. Louis Riddick, I think, is an excellent NFL analyst. I think his insight, I think his demeanor, I think he's fantastic. Brian Griese, he's not bringing enough. He's too vanilla, and he doesn't bring enough weight to the booth. His opinions don't matter. He doesn't do enough on ESPN to even have enough of a following. He doesn't have the personality of a John Gruden. So I think that booth is missing a personality. Monday Night Football needs a little pizzazz. It needs a little something. Jason Witten wasn't the answer.
Oh, disaster.
I mean, so we can't have those two guys. So we did improve from those two.
Oh my gosh.
But I still don't think Brian Griese is the answer.
Oh, at this point, I don't care who's in the booth. I am so happy to move on from the Jason Witten, Booger McFarland 1-2 punch. That was trash can. Poor tough. Jason Witten retires, then miraculously has hair. Like, he shows up in the booth, and it's like he's like the #1 Bosley client of all time. Like, dude, you have grown hair. Obviously, it's fake. But then he goes and plays again, bald immediately. But yeah, him, the 1-2 punch between Booger and Jason was just, Oh, it was just so.
Not the answer.
It was team. I was team mute. Like throwing
Team
it on
mute.
mute. Yeah, throw it on mute.
Yeah.
Let me listen to the local guys. But for the sake of Jason Witten's reputation, glad he's out of there. Give me anyone. Give me anyone.
Now he's coaching high school sports.
Which I love that. Oh, I love that. He's going to be such a great high school coach.
Yeah. All right, Henry.
Well, personally, as a Giants fan, I'm opposed to anything Dallas Cowboys. So,
Hey, I can tip my cap to that.
Well, it's the Cowboys have all the broadcasting jobs in the NFL, just like Duke has all the college basketball.
That's right. Hey, you want to be a broadcaster? Go play for the Cowboys, man.
That's it. You get a chance.
Switching gears to the NBA, my New York Knicks have reeled off 9 in a row and are currently sitting 4th in the Eastern Conference standings. LeBron James recently said that the NBA is good when the Knicks are good. The NBA is better when the Knicks are good. Now, I personally agree with that. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. So I grew up in the 90s when the Knicks were relevant. The Pat Riley, Jeff Van Gundy, Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley, Charles Smith. I know them all, baby. Those guys were fun. And when it came to the Knicks or the Heat, I always sided with the Knicks. So I enjoyed watching them. I've been to Madison Square Garden for the Big East tournament, but love that arena. And when that place is rocking and the Knicks are doing well, it's fun for the NBA. So I would rather the Knicks be good and relevant versus being irrelevant and not any good. Also, I'm a huge fan of Julius Randle. He has carried my fantasy basketball team into the Final Four, and I got him for a steal. So go Julius Randle. RJ Barrett is a former Dookie. He's playing well. Let's go. So I'm on the bandwagon. But I do hope the Hornets knock them out if they play each other in the playoffs. How about that?
So I'll first respond with shouting out Caden Smith, tight end for the New York Giants. One of my groomsmen is really good pals with him, so had to shout out Caden Smith. Solid
Not one
blocking
of the
tight end.
with your fake wedding over the weekend?
No. Not the Don who I was a groomsman for yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But so I haven't even experienced the Knicks being a relevant basketball team in my youthful days, but I love it. I mean, I grew up hearing even Zion recent comment, New York, the mecca of basketball. I'm like, can I see this in live action? Because it's been trash can basketball for my entire life. So I'm convinced. I want to see
Steve Francis.
Maybe I was before my having NBA perspective, but I love when the Knicks are good just because of the history there, and I am very excited. And then Julius Randle, a Dallas great, Dallas's own. Love seeing him. His development has been unbelievable. So all in on the Knicks having a great team. I love it.
Julius Randle is in line to be in the NBA MVP conversation. Coach Tibbs is in line for the Coach of the Year.
Love Tibbs.
And RJ Barrett was picked number 3 in the draft, right behind Zion Williamson and John Morant.
What a draft that is. Wow. I'm watching the documentary on the 1996 NBA draft. NBA TV's been doing that. I watched episode 1. I'm catching up on episode 2. However, I think that draft with those 3 guys, they're on their way to being a top draft class for sure.
Is 96 Vince Carter?
No, that's Kobe, Steve Nash, Iverson, Ray Allen, Marcus Camby.
Yeah, that and then 2003 with Wade, Bosh, LeBron, all them. Great drafts. 98 with Dirk. Come on now. Shout out.
Paul Pierce. All right. Last one, Henry. Last tap drill. Let's go.
Last tap. The Oscars were this weekend, and keeping it with sports, Kevin Durant and Mike Conley actually got an Oscar because they were the executive producers on a live movie called Two Distant Strangers that got an Academy Award for Best Live Movie, Best Live Video. Are you guys Oscar kind of guys? Are you red carpet guys?
Oh, come on, Bryce. You got to be.
Oh, my gosh. I'm a red carpet guy, but I'm definitely not an Oscars guy. So
do you need to know who is wearing who? That's
no, I definitely don't need that.
Bryce is a big red carpet guy, man. When I had to roll out the red carpet every time Bryce came into work, I'd get an hour early, clean his desk, roll the red carpet out. Mr. Johnson, I'm ready for you.
Luke, my former intern. Yeah, when I would pull out of the limo, have the red carpet ready to go. You better believe it. So I enjoy movies and TV, but I must say, in the last few years, I have gone more toward TV than movies. That my choice on the weekends, if we're gonna, my wife and I, Jody, hang out and watch something, I would rather watch movies. I watched The Blacklist and Manifest. Those two shows are better than any movie going on right now. You may laugh, oh, network television. No, it's tremendous. So these Oscar movies, I just don't buy into them. Every once in a while, some of the winning movies, I'll check out and, oh, okay, yeah, I understand why that was pretty good. But for the most part, they don't draw me in. And then if I do watch them, I go, these are not worth the hype. So I'm on a different wavelength from what I enjoy, and my entertainment standards, I guess, are different than what the Oscars celebrate.
So growing up, I never grew up playing much video games, so I could sit in front of the TV all day though. So award shows, game shows, anything on the TV I loved. Now I feel like award shows have just regressed so significantly that they're just unwatchable. Like even the ESPYs is just regressed. Like it was enjoyable when you get guys like Peyton Manning up there, but now it's just you get a guy up there or a girl and they're hosting and they're trying to like playfully roast the people there, and it's like the jokes aren't funny, they're incredibly politically charged, and like let's get some award. I enjoy reading about it, but not anymore. As an aside, I think it's cool that players are getting into this realm. Whereas, so my example is JJ Redick has a podcast, and
the best.
It's so good.
So good. So good.
The Old Man and the Three. But what's great about that is
not better than this one, but it is
of course
close.
Not. Yeah, we are second to none. Yep, and that's a humble brag.
I love JJ, man. He's one of my favorite Dookies ever. But go on.
Because it's fascinating because he is his own media now. So when he was traded to the Mavericks, I didn't read what ESPN said about it. I watched what he said about it. He went through the whole trade process, him asking for a trade, him talking about family, going to the Mavs, and he is his own mouthpiece for what is going on, which is fascinating. And it's such a great pod, and he gets NBA players on it. But anyway, it's fascinating that he's kind of leading this charge of being his own media and his own voice. Which is fascinating. But yes, the regression of award shows has turned me away.
So I guess your point is that guys are getting involved in other media. So movies. So Kevin Durant, Mike Conley.
Yeah.
Pretty cool that they've thrown their name on a movie that won an Oscar.
And Kobe, I think Kobe kind of led that charge a little bit. Kobe got really involved with that, and it was really awesome.
But to me,
go ahead, Bryce. No, what I was going to say is that go ahead.
Well, Kobe was actually like the writer and actually put it together. Kevin Durant and Conley, I imagine they just kind of put their name and money behind it. Sorry, Henry.
Nope, I was going to say exactly. Kobe Bryant was the first athlete to get an Academy Award for Dear Basketball.
That's right. Tremendous. I love it. All right, Henry, great job on Tap Drill. Appreciate it, man. Luke, awesome show. Great to be with you guys. Thanks to all of our listeners today. This has been the Unpacking It live podcast. Thursday, we should be dropping a guest podcast as well. It was supposed to happen last week, so hopefully they reschedule. So I won't even announce it until you'll see it drop. But make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and you can listen to both the live show and any of our guest interviews as well. But as always, I wrap things up by reminding you I'm Bryce, and I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I have been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well, and I hope you will join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have an awesome week. I hope you are encouraged by Unpack This, that we can live in the grace of Jesus, that regardless of what we've done in the past, regardless of the mistakes that we even made this weekend, today is a new day. We have hope. We have grace. He welcomes us with open arms, talking about hugs. Jesus brings it in for the real thing. So we will talk to you on Monday. We will recap Roger Goodell. How does he hug all the NFL prospects or draftees. We'll talk about all the top picks, all the big moves. But most importantly, God loves you. Have a wonderful day. I'm Bryce Johnson. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It Live podcast.